All right, another major match video with commentary. I took a flight to the NRA Whittington Center in Raton, New Mexico, to shoot Rocky Mountain 3-gun. This is my first time shooting this match. I went to this match because I knew a great group of people to shoot with were going, and because this match has a reputation for large natural terrain stages, which I tend to love. I'll give you some thoughts on the stages and the match throughout. I'll throw my overall final match impressions into the very end of the match video here. I'll throw up like a timestamp for when that is. But anyway, stage 7 here was actually a really good stage, I think. It had good ROs. It starts with some rifle at under 200 into some standing rifle under 200. Which was pretty challenging, and then goes into a short shotgun portion and ends on some handgun stuff. The shotgun that I'm using is once again a borrowed shotgun because a phenomenal friend and fellow shooter of mine, Greg, thank you, Greg, lent me the shotgun for this match. It's my second time touching the shotgun. First time was at a local match in Texas years ago, so once again, thank you. There's a little bit of learning on the clock here with my height over bore. I noticed I was hitting a little bit low on some frangible targets, especially the one in the swingers, which I barely even got. But overall, I think the stage went pretty well, and I don't really have any real complaints about this stage. There is one paper target at the end of the stage that, was kind of a pain in the butt to paste, but the ROs were generally doing a great job of pasting it, I think, and so it was going well.
Good.
All right, stage 8 is an all handgun stage. Normally, I really like all handgun stages, but I didn't love this one. I'll try to explain why. There was about 4 180 traps or unsafe engagement opportunities they had to emphasize to shooters in the walkthrough. Don't take this target from here, we'll DQ you. I think that that's unnecessary. Static steel was most of the targets were static steel targets that require the RO to call hits, and they missed a few for me. Most of the targets were hunt and peck with a few very limited engagement windows, so there was a lot of times you couldn't move and shoot a lot through this stage. You were going to like post up and then stop to shoot a few targets. I think that's a waste of a natural terrain stage, a beautiful natural terrain stage like this, to have limited engagements be the gimmick you're going to try and test from a shooter, especially if you're going to have like 4 180 traps through your hunt and peck thing. Another thing to note here, there's paper targets that need to be pasted all the way at the end of the stage, which I think is, again, bad stage design because those targets are often not pasted and it's very easy to miss. And it's just like, why put a reset burden on the reset crew to go all the way to the end of the stage? It's unnecessary. Stage 9 starts with shotgun and goes to some handgun, especially in the handgun portion. I'll mention this stage was full of limited engagements or disappearing targets. There really wasn't any difficult shots in either portion of the stage, but again, this was a lot of waste of a space that could have been used towards a stage. This stage could have been run in a bay. If you want to run a limited engagement gimmick, you can run that with like walls and barrels inside of a bay. When you go to a huge natural terrain setting like this, you have the creative ability to do a lot more with the stage, and to see that be, again, one of the only things that this match chooses to test is it's boring, it's disappointing. Stage one, all shotgun stage. I have my thoughts about all shotgun stages in general and the role of shotgun and three gun, but I've said that before and I won't continue to beat that drum here. I'll say that I actually did like this stage, and I liked it because there were a lot of activators and thrown targets in comparison to most shotgun stages at matches, which tend to be mostly jungle run. They had more moving targets on this stage, and I want to give them props for that. I didn't like, there was one activator you'll see that I had to shoot a number of times. There's an activator that could get stuck, and it was just like propped up on a rock, and if you got an unlucky hit or an unlucky 4 hits on it, it wouldn't necessarily go down, and you can't calibrate that. So something that maybe doesn't have much of a place in a major match, but maybe I'm just unlucky. Nope, you're good. All right. Well, oh. This all going so well. Stage 2 starts with rifle, to a variety of engagements, mostly under 200 yards. I think one was at like 250, maybe 300. And then more rifle, and then 2 shots that are like 450, 500, something. And then it transitions over to a bunch of pistol. Pretty good stage, my favorite of the match. Actually, one small thing that I want to mention I didn't love about this stage is that there's paper targets that needed to be pasted all the way at the end of the stage, which I don't really feel were necessary to the stage, and made reset a little bit more cumbersome. If you listen here, you can actually hear me talking to myself as I gauge some of these targets. I'm saying the distances out loud in this case, but throughout the match, you might even hear me saying, might not be able to, but hear me saying, narrating what I'm doing to myself as I go through these stages. That's a tip I actually picked up that I think really has helped me keep to my stage plan and remember what it is I'm doing throughout big stages like this. All right, so what did I think of the match overall? Honestly, I really can't recommend it to anyone who's not extremely into anything 3-gun. If you're local-ish, it might be worth it, but this match really didn't present stages I felt were up to the potential of the venue. It ignored some great distance opportunities in a world-class venue with, 5-stand and many traditional bays and 1,000-yard bays and everything else like that to go run what could have been like a bay stage, but in the woods now. It has dumb rules like a subjective 30-second penalty for trying harder than some RO liked. A few people actually got that penalty. Or it has a 10-second miss penalty for a 550-yard target, which means it's not worth it to actually try on any targets beyond 200. It has a 7 or 7:30 a.m. start time every day when we finish shooting by 3 or 4. So sunset isn't until 8 p.m. This match could have easily started a couple hours later to be easier on the people who travel to the match, or the match could have been a 2-day match, condensing a little. We had plenty of time left over. Or it could have had more stages and still use the 3-day format, but 9 stages over 3 days, yeah. The NRA Whittington Center is in a remote part of the country, and the match spans those 3 days, so all attendees really have to devote 5 days minimum, 3 of them working days, Thursday, Friday, Monday, to come do this. I just don't think that these 9 stages were worth it. As much as I hate to sound this negative, if you came to me in private and asked about this is what I'd tell you. And so that's what I'm saying here. This match also is strictly against on the clock coaching, which I disagree with because, once again, I personally got coached by an RO, and some other shooters I witnessed received coaching from ROs or from squad mates to no penalty. This dumb bullshit lie match directors tell themselves about coaching not happening is never reliably and consistently enforced. It only detracts from the customer experience, and I remain against it, especially for, physically challenging events like this. All right, stage 3. Unfortunately, I have some negative things to say here. So the ROs here weren't competent. We had one of our shooters cut a corner. Not while shooting, but cut a corner between shooting positions. And they decided to call him on it, but not call other people on it. And when they brought this up and pointed it out, yada, 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 they apologized. They said they would not give him a reshoot, though. And they said that the reason why is because it was against the match rules. I actually went and looked up the match rules, which apparently the ROs hadn't done. You can go look them up still. There's no rules in there about cutting corners being prohibited or anything like that. So they were just wrong, and that happened to someone on our squad, which means I get to talk about it. There's also some other things worth mentioning here. There's paper that needs to be pasted all the way at the end of this stage that the ROs weren't doing a great job of checking. Again, don't put paper targets at the far end because this is what happens. This match had a this stage had like a 550-yard shot at the end here, but it's not worth actually trying on that because it's only a 10-second penalty. And this match does have rules that I mentioned here for, like, there's an enhanced 30-second penalty for gaming too hard. If they say, like, you go against the spirit of the rule, we'll give you a 30-second procedural. It's an arbitrary penalty that this match needs to get rid of immediately. It reeks of, like, contempt for your customers, even if it was never enforced, which it was. But, this was just kind of a mess of a stage with bad ROs.
Butter on.
Stand by.
Stage 4 started with shotgun and went into a little bit of rifle, a little bit of pistol. To say some positive things, I did love there was some great flying clays for the shotgun portion of this stage. There was also like a 600-yard rifle shot, but again, for a 10-second penalty, it's not actually worth trying on that, period. There was also paper targets for the pistol in some really dumb, hard to reset places all the way at the end of the stage here, and the staff was doing a really poor job of actually checking to see if those targets were reset, and they weren't resetting anything themselves. They also seemed unfamiliar with the concept of clearing guns behind the shooter, so this one was run a bit inefficiently. There was like 6 ROs assigned to this stage, and most of them did nothing the whole time. I think they were probably supposed to go big clearing guns, but they weren't. Anyway, it is what it is.
Okay, I see now. Move.
400. Oh, that was the 400 one. All right, moving.
Moving to 600.
All right, stage 5 was an all-rifle stage taking place in a large valley, kind of working out of this little structure they had. It was a fine stage. I would have liked to see some farther targets. There was only one target here that was like 5-something hundred yards away, and it wasn't worth actually trying on because it was a 10-second penalty again. So, oh well. One thing I'll mention here, I got mad about how they made shooters shoot from this dumb window in the beginning of this stage because that's a height-based restriction. And they were pretty rude around saying, no, we're not going to let the short shooters get another rock or anything there so they can actually see out this window. This led to some shooters having to really shoot off of tiptoes and barely make it, and anyone who was shorter than them had to I heard that some shooters took the rifle off their shoulder and just fired some shots through the window to avoid getting an FTE. This is a really dumb amateur stage design here where you have I would expect a major match to not make this kind of error. To illustrate a point here, it'd be like telling a standard height 6-foot-ish tall shooter to go shoot a target over the very top of a VTAC or something like that. And they'd be like, how? Yeah, that's what you're asking your short shooters to do here. Amateur mistake. All right, stage 6 had a very poorly written stage description and not enough definition for what constituted shooting out of a given position. What you're seeing me do here is technically counted as me doing a kneeling shooting position, a sitting shooting position, a prone shooting position, and another sitting shooting position. Obviously not, but that's how it was counted. I think this stage could be made better with some tweaks, like a prop or like a VTAC or some farther targets. I think that all would come together to make this a better stage. Also, all the shotgun targets on this stage are engaged with buckshot, which is fun and different, but it's also they weren't really doing anything to make buckshot any different from birdshot in this scenario. So I think that if you're going to use buckshot targets, they could have been implemented in a more creative way.
Those look like they have a good wind on them.
All right, that's all I got. I think my next video is going to be much more lighthearted. I'm going to get some memes back in there. We're going to have some fun.